Okay, Assalamualaikum to everyone. Today we will present about introduction to boiler. Next. This is the person who will present today. Okay, I'm Nabila Wasfa from Group 4. And I am Nisa from Group 4. And me, Nur Shafika.
And me is Muhammad Nur Khairil Faris.
Okay, in today's topic, we will present about the history, what is boilers, type of boilers, ways to function and application of boilers. Okay, today we will start with history. Okay, history. The first boilers are documented by the first boilers were documented to have existed as early as 1st century by hero of Alexandria. At first, the first two person who developed the steam generating boiler is George Babcock and Stephen Wilcox. These two were considered as the founding fathers of steam generating boilers. Next. This is the timeline of the boilers. Okay, in the late 17,000s to early 18,000s, the development of kettle type boiler. It is a simple design that featured water and placed above a firebox. That is boiled into a steam. And then in 1867, George Babcock and Stephen Wilcox, the first person that I mentioned just now, they are the first to patent the boiler design into their own version, consisting of tubes and fire brick wall structure to create steam. And then in 1891, Babcock and Wilcox Company, they manufactured small boilers that used lamp coal and were fired by hand. Okay, in the same year, the company opened Sterling Boiler Company in Barberton, Ohio. The boilers are manufactured is this one. It is a lot larger. And then the new design, it is able to produce 50,000 pounds of steam in an hour and become one of the best-selling boilers of the time. This is the example, the pictures. Okay, next. Okay, next. In 1912, there are other companies that are manufacturing boilers. They are making it better, but it is in a smaller scale. Two of the person is a Griff Grade Company and American Stoker Company. Okay, and then in the early 1920s, the tube and tile boiler design was created. This design have fire brick walls, require no insulation. The tube and tile version added insulation over the firebox for better efficiency. In the late 20s and in the early 30s, the invention of studded tube and the loose wall constructed boilers led to the development of higher capacity boilers. And then in the late 50s and in the early of 60s, the development of membrane tube are eliminated the needed for refractory. You can see in the picture, this is the example. And then in the late 70s until early 80s, this is the alternative burning boilers that are used in the house. The picture behind and the picture. Okay, next presenter.
So what is boiler? Boiler is a closed pressure vessel strongly constructed of steel or iron where water is converted to steam by the application of heat. So steam is produced by heating water to its boiling point when water changes from liquid to a vapor. This vapor we call steam. So they have several types of boiler. The first is steam boiler. So basically, both hot water and steam boiler use a heat exchanger as a tool to heat water and distribute it to a pipe system connected to radiator around the home. So how it works? The boiler is particularly filled with water. Then the water is heated and turned to steam. The pressure within the system is increased. Then the steam rise through the pipe up into the radiator. Then, as the pressure increase, an air vent within the radiator is open. Next, next is hot water boiler. Hot water boiler is uh water boiler is heating system rely rely relay oil pressure, volume, and temperature to provide efficient and safe heating to radiator in your home. So how it works? The thermostat call for heat, and oil or gas burn is activate heating the water in the boiler. Then the pump will either begin pumping water through the system or wait for the water to preheat to desired temperature. And then the heater water expand extra volume inside into expansion tank. Then the heat radiates from the heat water in the radiator. So the water cool and the cooled water return to the boiler via gravity of separate pump. The cool water flow back to the boiler to be reheated. So move on. The next boiler is natural gas boiler. So natural gas boiler is a gas boiler of fuel. Wait. Where natural gas pump through a gas line runner beneath the house via a pipeline from an adjacent road. Then oil boiler is water-based heating system fueled by oil. So this is quite expensive. This is common. There is more common in rural area in the country with more limited access to natural gas. So okay, move on. Next boiler is condensing boiler. So it is utilized to spread heat exchanger, one to heat the water before it goes out to the radiator, and one to reheat water returning from the piping in the house. So this is basically example boiler in the house. In the house. Okay, next. This is two common boiler. First is fire tube boiler. So the second one is water tube boiler. How we can the different both of this is the combustion. For what for fire tube boiler, the combustion is inside the tube. Then the water tube boiler, combustion outside the tube. So if you see this first picture, that is what is it? That is fire tube boiler. No. Move on.
Okay, next, let's see how it works for two types of boiler, which is fire tube and the water tube. But let's start with the fire tube first. Fire tube boiler, we have furnace, water tank acting as a boiler and smokestack. Okay, as all we know, there are tubes running through the water tank, carrying the heat from the furnace, and the smokestacks vents the heat and gases caused by the heating effect so that the pressure does not continue to rise above the intended level. So, when the fuel is burned inside the furnace, the tubes transfer the heat of the furnace through the water in the tank. Once it is heated, the steam generated is moved along downstream. Fire tube boilers tend to be the cheapest type of boiler to produce, as they have a fairly simple construction but are typically limited for low to medium pressure applications due to the thickness of the outer shell containing water. So we can see the moving picture here. That's how a fire tube boiler works. Okay. Right. Okay, next let's see a water tube boiler. This design is fairly similar to a fire tube boiler, but instead of the furnace heating fire tubes to heat water in a tank, the furnace heats water tubes inside the furnace. Okay, why? In the same way, a fuel source is burned in the furnace, causing the water tubes inside to heat up. Once again, when the water is boiled, steam is generated and moved downstream. A water tube boiler is more thermally efficient than a fire tube boiler, but they are more complex to construct and the quality of the water can be a limiting factor. The water may need filtering to operate most effectively. From the explanation, we can see that the water tube boiler is the most efficient boiler that mostly used by the people nowadays. Okay, next. So next, I'm gonna talk about the application of boiler. Okay, the boilers are used to produce steam, as we all know. The generation part of a steam system uses a boiler to add energy to a feed water supply to generate steam. The energy is released from the combustion of fossil fuel or from process waste heat. Okay, the first one. Boilers are the basic foundation of heating and domestic hot water in many commercial. The commercial boilers are used for transporting heat energy from one area to another in your facility. This may be by steam, water, or even hot oil. The boiler is a pressure vessel to allow heat to be captured and efficiently carried from the boiler room to the point of use. And then the second one is industry. For example, sizing, bleaching in textile industry and other applications like sugar mills, cement, agriculture, and chemical industry. The third one is power generation, where mechanical or electrical power may be generated by expanding steam in the steam engines or steam turbine. The fourth one is heating. The fifth one is institutional, and last but not least, the education facilities. That's all from